Terminator 2 is one of the most expensive films ever made up to its point of release.
Hasta la vista, baby.
It is also a film with a hidden ending that almost nobody saw. One that James Cameron filmed, loved, and then buried. A future where Judgment Day never came. An elderly Sarah Connor watching her granddaughter play in a park, recording one last message into the machine that had saved her life. Cameron cut it out. And the version you know ends in the dark. 1. The ending Cameron filmed and then buried. There is a version of Terminator 2 that ends with hope instead of silence. Cameron shot a full alternate ending, known as the Future Coda, set 30 years after the events of the film. An elderly Sarah Connor, played by Linda Hamilton under 6 hours of Stan Winston makeup, sits in a sunlit Washington, D.C. park. She watches an adult John Connor play with his young daughter. She speaks into a recorder. August 29, 1997 came and went. Nothing happened. Michael Jackson turned 40. There was no Judgment Day. The scene was fully filmed, fully edited, fully scored. It ends with Sarah tying her granddaughter's shoelaces. A quiet domestic moment that closes the entire story with warmth rather than darkness. Cameron cut it. He felt it was too neat, too resolved. A film that opened on fire and steel needed to close on uncertainty, not reassurance. The Future Coda exists on certain home video releases, buried inside extended editions. On the theatrical cut, it simply doesn't exist. You have to go looking for the ending where everyone lives. 2. The most expensive film ever made at the time Terminator. 2 didn't just cost a lot. It cost more than any film in history up to the moment of its release. The budget reached $102 million. The original estimate from Coralco Pictures was $75 million. When it climbed to $88 million, studio executives panicked and began suggesting cuts, including the biker bar scene that opens the film. They even approached Schwarzenegger privately and asked him to persuade Cameron to remove it. Schwarzenegger refused on the spot. His response was direct. Only a studio guy would cut a scene like that. The film opened on July 3, 1991, and grossed $519.8 million worldwide. It was the highest-grossing film of the year. Every dollar the studio spent came back more than 5 times over. 3. The original villain was another Arnold. The T-1000, sleek, liquid, terrifying, was not the villain Cameron originally wrote for this film. His earliest concept for the sequel's antagonist was a second T-800, identical to the hero. Arnold Schwarzenegger playing both protector and killer in the same film. The imagery was striking on paper. 2 identical machines fighting each other. A mirror image war. Cameron killed the idea himself. He decided it was too gimmicky. Worse, 2 T-800s would be evenly matched. The threat would never escalate. He wanted the sequel's villain to represent genuine advancement over the first film's danger. He described the contrast he was looking for as a tank against a Porsche. That comparison led directly to the T-1000. Smaller, faster, indestructible in a completely different way. 4. Billy Idol was Cameron's first choice for T-1000 before Robert Patrick, before any other actor. Cameron had a specific face in mind for the T-1000, Billy Idol, the rock musician. Cameron had even commissioned storyboards showing the T-1000 with Idol's bleached hair, sharp cheekbones, and cold stare. The visual logic was clear. Idol had a look that read as dangerous and slightly inhuman without any prosthetics at all. Then Idol was involved in a serious motorcycle accident that nearly cost him his leg. He couldn't run. The T-1000 needed to sprint. The role went elsewhere. Cameron then briefly considered casting Michael Biehn, Kyle Reese from the first film, with the in-universe explanation that Skynet had cloned Reese's body to build a new Terminator. He later acknowledged this was a face/off-style idea that would have confused and frustrated the audience. He dropped it and found Robert Patrick instead. 5. Robert Patrick trained to be inhuman. Robert Patrick understood that the T-1000's physical performance had to communicate machine logic at all times. No human tells, no involuntary reactions. He built a specific physical vocabulary from scratch. He studied the hunting behavior of the American bald eagle and the movement of sharks, creatures that move with absolute purpose and zero wasted motion. He trained to fire a gun with either hand, reasoning that a machine would have no dominant side. He practiced shooting without blinking or flinching, a genuinely difficult thing for a human being to suppress under gunfire conditions. He ran a punishing daily regime, training to sprint at full speed while breathing only through his nose, so that he would never appear breathless or fatigued on camera. He trained so hard that when he chased Edward Furlong's dirt bike during filming, Patrick was actually catching up. The bike's maximum speed had to be increased. 6. The lead actor was found at a boys' club. Casting director Molly Finn had a specific brief from James Cameron for the role of John Connor. She needed a streetwise kid, someone with genuine edge and real-world experience. Not a trained child actor from a stage school. She wasn't finding him through conventional casting calls. She went to the Boys Club of Pasadena, a youth development program, and found Edward Furlong there. He was 13 years old and had no acting ambitions whatsoever. He later said he fell into acting and had never planned it. His background mirrored John Connor's almost exactly. He had grown up without a father figure and had been separated from his mother. That personal truth fed directly into his performance. Cameron kept Furlong's natural reactions wherever possible, rather than trying to shape him into someone he wasn't. It remains one of the most convincing debut performances in mainstream action cinema. 7. Schwarzenegger was paid $21,429 per word. Arnold Schwarzenegger was paid $15 million for Terminator 2. On top of that, producer Mario Kassar gave him a Gulfstream 3 private jet, valued at approximately $14 million, simply for agreeing to appear in the film. The $15 million salary breaks down in a specific way that no other film in history can quite match. Schwarzenegger has exactly 700 words of dialogue in Terminator 2. That works out to $21,429 per word. The four-word phrase, "Hasta la vista, baby," now one of the most quoted lines in cinema history, cost the production $85,716 to say. Cameron was paid $6 million to write and direct. The star earned more than twice the director for approximately 6 months of work. Schwarzenegger later used "Hasta la vista, baby" in political speeches throughout his governorship of California. The line was in the script from the beginning. It was not improvised. 8. Arnold wore cartoon underwear to get real reactions. The biker bar scene required extras to react convincingly to the sight of a large naked man walking through their establishment demanding clothes. Cameron needed genuine discomfort and laughter from the crowd, not performed reactions. Schwarzenegger solved it himself. Rather than arriving on set fully naked, as the scene technically required, he waited until the extras were in position and then walked out wearing a pair of brightly colored cartoon print underwear, without telling anyone what he was planning. The bar, full of extras, expecting a dramatic entrance, burst out laughing. The laughter and bewilderment in those reaction shots is real. A genuine civilian also wandered into the bar between takes, not realizing filming was underway. She encountered Schwarzenegger in his underwear and asked what was happening. He told her it was male stripper night. 9. Linda Hamilton went permanently deaf in one ear. The elevator shootout scene in Pescadero State Hospital is one of the most intense sequences in the film. The T-1000 stabs through the elevator ceiling. Bullets fill the confined space. The sound pressure in an enclosed metal box with live gunfire is extraordinary. Linda Hamilton wore ear protection throughout the scene's filming. Between takes, she removed the plugs. A take began before she had replaced them. The gunshots fired in that enclosed elevator caused permanent partial hearing loss in one ear. It has never recovered. Hamilton acknowledged the injury in a 2012 interview, noting it was an entirely preventable accident. She was on set working an intensely physical shoot. 13 weeks of weapons training beforehand, 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, and a single moment of inattention between takes left a permanent mark. 10. The T-1000 sound was made with a condom. The liquid metal transformation sound, the unsettling wet metallic shift that accompanies every T-1000 morph sequence, is one of the most distinctive sound effects in film history. It was created by putting a condom over a microphone and dipping it into a bucket of yogurt. Sound designer Gary Rydstrom constructed the T-1000's sonic identity from unexpected sources throughout the film. The sound of the T-1000 passing through metal bars was achieved by opening a can of dog food and recording the sound of the contents emerging from the tin. James Cameron himself provided the screaming vocals for the T-1000 as it melts in the molten steel at the film's climax, a fact he confirmed years after release. The creature's voice at its most vulnerable moment belongs to its director. 11. The liquid metal used only 42 CGI shots. The T-1000 is remembered as a CGI triumph. The reality is more interesting than that. Out of all the sequences in which the T-1000 displays its morphing abilities, approximately 15 minutes of screen time in total, only 42 to 43 shots used computer-generated imagery. ILM spent roughly $5 million and 10 months on those shots. The remaining footage was achieved entirely through practical effects built by Stan Winston's team. The head splitting apart when hit by the T-800's shotgun was 2 articulated puppets. The silver bullet wounds were remote-controlled squibs sewn into Patrick's suit that opened like flowers when triggered, with ILM then digitally closing them. The famous cleave scene was a suit divided down the middle. The scenes where T-1000 impersonates other characters used real twins, including Don and Dan Stanton as the hospital guard, and Linda Hamilton's own twin sister Leslie for the scenes requiring 2 Sarahs. What looked like digital witchcraft was mostly rubber, cable controls, and identical siblings. 12. The truck roof was unplanned. One of the most memorable images in the highway chase sequence, the cab of the truck with its roof ripped clean off, was not in the script. The production arrived at the filming location for the storm drain chase and discovered a problem. The truck cab, as designed, was too tall to fit under the overpass that formed a key part of the sequence. Cameron made the decision on the spot. The roof was coming off. It became a scripted story point. The T-1000 is forced to tear the roof away to continue the pursuit. That made the chase more visceral and the T-1000 more terrifying than the scripted version would have been. The stuntman who rode the motorcycle into the storm drain was supported by 1-inch cables, reducing the effective weight of bike and rider to 180 pounds on landing. The cables were digitally erased in post. The accident that didn't happen produced the sequence that everyone remembers. 13. The biker bar was shot. Next to a police beating, James Cameron later revealed something about the night the biker bar scene was filmed that reframes the entire production. The bar was located directly across the street from a location in the San Fernando Valley. The date of filming was March 3, 1991. That is the same night, a few hundred feet away, that Los Angeles police officers beat Rodney King following a traffic pursuit. The incident was filmed by a bystander on a home video camera. The footage became one of the most significant pieces of documentary evidence in the history of American civil rights. Cameron has stated that he was aware of police activity in the area that night, but did not know what had occurred until afterward. Terminator 2's opening scene and one of the defining events of 1990s American civil unrest were filmed on the same street on the same night. 14. The child actor grew during production. The production of Terminator 2 ran from October 1990 through March 1991, 6 months of filming. Edward Furlong was 13 when it began. By the time production wrapped, he was visibly, measurably different from the boy who had started. His voice began to break during filming. Several scenes required pitch adjustment in post-production to maintain continuity with his earlier recorded dialogue. He grew several inches taller across the shoot. In the desert sequences, filmed relatively early, he looks noticeably younger than in later scenes. For a scene shot in the final weeks of production requiring him to stand next to Linda Hamilton, the height difference had changed so dramatically from earlier footage that a hole was dug in the floor, and Furlong stood in it to restore the correct eyeline. The boy who walked onto the set and the one who walked off it were not quite the same person. 15. The Prince arrived the night before opening Terminator. 2 was scheduled to open on July 3, 1991. It was the most expensive film ever made. It had a marketing campaign built around summer dominance. Everything depended on those prints being in cinemas on time. The visual effects had pushed the schedule to its absolute limit. Theatrical prints were not delivered to cinemas until the night before the release date. The film that had been in production for 6 months, that had consumed $102 million, and the full creative output of 4 separate effects companies, landed in projection booths with hours to spare. It opened to $52.3 million in its first weekend. It went on to gross $519.8 million worldwide. It won 4 Academy Awards. It became the highest-grossing film of 1991. The Prince made it in time. Just. The most expensive film ever made at the time. A villain who was nearly Billy Idol. A director who screamed his own monster's death. And an ending full of sunshine and grandchildren that Cameron decided the world wasn't allowed to see. Terminator 2 didn't just raise the bar. It built a new one. Drop the fact that hit you hardest in the comments below. And subscribe. The next story from behind the camera is already waiting.